Discover how a struggling single mom's art sold for $10,000 sparks an incredible transformation. In the dim light of her cramped living room, Sarah put the finishing touches on her latest painting, Family Ties. Each stroke of the brush called upon the memories of laughter echoing from nearby porches, and the warmth of BBQs on summer nights. But as the colors blended, a darker shadow loomed over her, a nagging voice that questioned if she was truly an artist. Would anyone see the resilience in her work? Or would her dreams remain just that, dreams? She craved recognition but feared unveiling her heart to a world that had often overlooked her. Juggling two low-paying jobs, the weight of bills pressed down harder each day. At the diner, she served coffee and smiles to strangers who saw her only as a waitress. Then, in hushed tones, she was whispered about when cleaning their homes, an invisible ghost, hustling for mere survival. But at night, when her kids slept, the brush in her hand felt alive as it danced across the canvas. It was her escape, her way to claw back a sense of worth. Yet with each completed piece, self-doubt seeped in, suffocating her spirit. What if, despite the leap of faith it took to paint, she was destined to remain trapped in this cycle of anonymity? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The day her life shifted began like any other, fraught with the morning rush. As she loaded her kids into the car, hope mixed with apprehension. When she received the call about Family Ties, every beat of her heart quickened with disbelief. A local gallery owner had spotted her painting and offered $10,000. Her hands shook as she clutched the phone, a paltry sum compared to what it could have been, but for her, it was everything, an invitation to dream again. Excitement bubbled within her, but just as quickly, nagging thoughts crushed it. Was this a fluke? Was she worthy? Would her unrefined passion unravel her under scrutiny? Suddenly, whispers erupted in her small town. The air grew thick with envy, and those who once ignored her now eyed her with suspicion. Who does she think she is? They'd sneer into glasses full of wine. Her once peaceful life splintered under the weight of new expectations, from both the community and her ever-critical family who were now eager for their share of her success. Yet nothing prepared her for the arrival of her estranged mother, Diane. She stood there, a figure from Sarah's forgotten past, harboring the same artistic dreams that had shattered years ago. This was no simple reconnect, it was a clash of ghosts that made Sarah recoil. A cocktail of resentment tightened in her chest, and anger mixed with hurt poured like oil in her veins. Would they ever break the cycle of unfulfilled aspirations, or would their combined fears trap them in the shadows forever? With every glance exchanged, Sarah sensed her life unraveling, and with it, the only semblance of hope she had since the sale. She braced herself for the turmoil ahead and the unrelenting doubt that threatened to suffocate her once more. Could she finally show the world her true potential, or was she bound to repeat the mistakes of the past? The tension inside the small living room thickened, the air crackling with unresolved emotions. Diane settled into a worn-out armchair, the light casting shadows over her weathered features, an unfamiliar mix of nostalgia and discomfort. Sarah felt anchored to the spot, a puppet caught in a master's grip, her heart racing between anger and yearning. How could she reconcile the mother she had longed to know with the ghost of past failures? "I came to see you, Sarah," Diane said, her voice frayed yet earnest. "I've heard about your painting. I'm proud of you." Proud? The word ignited something fierce within Sarah. Proud? Or jealous? She snapped, the words erupting like a shaken bottle of soda. "Maybe you just couldn't bear to miss out when someone else is trying to rise." Diane recoiled slightly, hurt flashing in her eyes before she steeled her expression. "You think I don't want you to succeed? I failed at my own dreams, Sarah. I don't want the same for you. The intensity of the moment constricted around them, each woman wrestling with two truths: the love bound by blood and the hurt forged by neglect. Sarah felt the walls tightening. She wanted to escape the chatter in her mind, yet she was ensnared by an innate desire to confront the fallout of their shared history. Do you even understand what it's like to feel invisible? Sarah's voice quivered but held firm. You don't get to swoop in now, expecting me to accept your empty praise after everything. For a moment, silence rang out, punctuated only by the distant noise of children laughing outside. Sarah shifted, resisting the mounting urge to exit the scene and bury herself in her artwork, a place where she could manipulate the narrative, one brushstroke at a time. Your art, Diane finally said, her tone softer, it embodies what I wish I had the courage to create. I see my own dreams reflected in your work, and it terrifies me. That admission pierced through Sarah's anger, pulling at the strings of her empathy. Diane was not merely a specter of her past but a legitimate reflection of what could lie ahead. How do I know you won't tear me down if I show you more? Sarah questioned, her voice barely above a whisper. If I let you into my world, what's next? By giving you the space to be the artist you are destined to be, Diane replied, a hint of vulnerability flickering in her eyes. I want to help, not hurt. But you have to let me in. The room felt stifling, every scrap of doubt fighting to fracture the tenuous thread of communication. As Sarah contemplated her next move, the echoes of her childhood brushed against her consciousness, a life stifled by fear of judgment and aspirations left unfulfilled. Maybe the very first step toward empowerment was to reframe her own narrative, letting Diane's presence neither overshadow nor dictate her journey, but rather challenge her to reach higher. What do you want from me? Sarah asked, wrestling with vulnerability. How do we start? The sincerity in her words hung in the air, signaling the turning point she had subconsciously awaited. It wasn't just a reconciliation, it was a potential collaboration of their artistic spirits, woven together by a shared history of pain, ambition, and hope. But even as hope flickered in her chest, a dark, insidious thought lingered: could she trust this new path? Was she ready to risk their rekindled relationship for the sake of her art? Faced with a fork in her journey, Sarah could either step into the light of her potential or retreat into the shadows of her fears. The questions thrummed in her mind like an unfinished canvas, awaiting a choice that would alter everything. Would she stride fearlessly into this new chapter, or hesitate under the weight of her mother's uncertainty? A decision loomed large, and with it, the future of her artistic identity hung delicately in the balance. The moment Diane's words faded into the familiar hum of the room, a silence settled that felt both heavy and charged with possibility. Sarah swallowed hard, grappling with the internal storm brewing in her chest. Could she truly open herself up to Diane? The thought wrestled with her instincts to protect herself, years of hurt cicatrized in the fissures of their relationship. Let us start with something small, Sarah proposed, driven by a blend of trepidation and nascent hope. You can come to my studio. I'll show you what I've been working on. It was tentative, like reaching out to test the water before diving in. Thank you, Sarah, Diane replied, her expression softening, revealing the vulnerability that had been hidden beneath layers of apprehension. There was a flicker of excitement in her eyes, a glimmer that reminded Sarah of the artist's spark she so longed to cultivate. As they made plans, Sarah felt a rush of conflicting emotions. This was not merely an invitation to see her art, it was a tentative acceptance of the possibility that she could redefine the narrative of her life. With each passing moment, the notion of sharing her creative sanctuary with an audience, the very audience she'd spent years evading, felt more precarious and more invigorating. The next few days turned into a blur of anticipation and anxiety. Sarah scrambled to prepare her studio, dusting off canvases and rearranging paint tubes. It felt surreal, as if she were staging an elaborate show meant to mask the chaos that lay beneath her carefully curated surface. Would she even recognize the artist she had become? However, the mounting apprehension palpably morphed into resolve. Looking at her recent works, she saw bits of herself unfold, the rawness of her experiences, the brushstrokes representing the myriad feelings that had once weighed her down. She realized this was a chance to let someone back into her life, but also a moment to embrace the artist she had fought tirelessly to become. On the day Diane was set to visit, Sarah felt as if she were standing at the precipice of a vital decision. The studio door creaked open, and a gust of fresh air accompanied Diane as she stepped inside. The transformation of the space astounded her mother. "It feels alive here," Diane remarked quietly, seemingly lost in the colors and textures swamping the room. "Each piece tells a story," Sarah responded, her voice brimming with newfound confidence. She began to explain the stories behind her canvases, the emotions embedded deep in every crevice. To her surprise, Diane listened intently, nodding as understanding blossomed in her eyes. They moved from one piece to another, a shared heartbeat resonating between them. Sarah felt herself stepping away from the shadow of disbelief, allowing the pride and tenacity she had nurtured within to emerge. The contours of her world began to shift. She was forging a path illuminated by her art and the tremors of vulnerability she had once shunned. Just as Sarah was about to reveal her most intricate piece, a sudden surge of doubt cloaked the room. "What if this disappoints you?" She blurted out, the words escaping like a frightened gasp. "What if everything I have fought for doesn't measure up?" Diane stepped closer, laying a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You must trust your journey, just as I have come to realize I need to trust in mine. This is about your truth, Sarah." The room buzzed with palpable tension, Sarah's heart quickening as she prepared to unveil the piece, the culmination of years marked by struggle, longing, and whispered hopes. As she turned, her breath caught at the sight of her mother's rapt expression, a blend of fear and reverence painted on Diane's face as she beheld the raw authenticity of Sarah's vision. In that moment, it was not just an art revelation, it was a pivotal crossroads of trust and acceptance. But just as Sarah felt the rapid tide of hope flood in, a clatter from outside jolted her from the moment. The world outside remained unchanged despite their progress. Her thoughts spiraled back into doubt. Was she truly ready to embrace both her art and her mother? Was she willing to risk her newfound joy, or would she shrink back with fear of failure? A choice loomed before her, one that would decide the trajectory of both their futures. With the weight of uncertainty pressing heavily on her shoulders, Sarah faced the canvas of her life, ready to take a brush to the pale expanse. The question now loomed, would she choose to color it with her truth or let doubt stain the pure potential waiting to erupt? Sarah's fingers hesitated over the canvas, each second filling the space between her heartbeat and her breath. The vibrant hues swirled below her intention, a metaphor for the emotions clamoring for expression within her. She could feel Diane's gaze, steady and unyielding, anticipating the unveiling of what lay beneath layers of her own doubt. The warm light danced through the studio, illuminating the colors that screamed for release. Drawing in a deep breath, Sarah took a step toward the canvas. The details of her most intricate piece were an amalgamation of her fears, triumphs, and the intricacies of her journey as an artist and as her mother's daughter. It was a self-portrait of sorts, layered with abstraction yet undeniably personal. The pendulum of vulnerability swung back, and she felt that tugging uncertainty threatening to close the distance she just navigated. What if I fail again? The thought darted through her mind like a shadow. But it was accompanied by another voice, a gentler whisper that insisted she had already begun to redefine herself. A voice that said she had taken the step into the light, allowing her story to breathe. With a decisive motion, she peeled back the fabric covering her work, revealing every stroke of emotion, every echo of her experience. Diane's intake of breath crafted a fragile silence, the kind that felt sacred in its sanctity. "Sarah," she whispered, her voice cloaked in astonishment as she gazed at the vivid portrayal of turbulent yet hopeful emotion. The air buzzed with unspoken words, a bridge formed between them in that instant. "This is, beyond anything I imagined." But even as the praise resonated, Sarah's internal monologue spiraled with a surprising intensity. Was it validation she sought, or was it simply permission to accept what she had crafted? Parsing through the layers of her own need, she felt threads of connection weaving their way into a broader understanding of herself. "What do you see, Mom?" Sarah asked, courageously challenging her anxiety. Not just as a daughter seeking approval but as an artist demanding feedback. Diane hesitated, and in that pause, Sarah's gut twisted. The silence boomed louder than laughter. "I see you, Sarah. I see the struggles you've carried, but I also see resilience, an incredible spark that shines through the chaos." The words hit Sarah like an intimate embrace. There was an intersection there, a shared vulnerability that glimmered between the creator and the beholder. Each moment she had held back her truth was now layered within that canvas, exposing the fears she had battled. The gravity of their past weighed down on her, yet somehow, she felt a sense of buoyancy. But was it enough? In that instant, self-doubt clawed its way back, and she asked herself whether her work could bridge the chasm between them. Would it truly allow them to start anew? Diane, noticing the flicker of uncertainty that betrayed Sarah's external calm, stepped closer. "Don't you see? This isn't just about art. It's about healing," she said, her tone gentle yet firm. "You've allowed me to see your truth, and that takes unimaginable courage. This piece isn't just a reflection of you, it's an invitation, a chance for both of us to address the spaces we've avoided." Her words settled heavily in the air. Sarah stood at a new crossroad, weighed down by a comprehensively different set of choices. This pivot was not just about her relationship with Diane but also the one she had with herself. For the first time, the shroud of imposter syndrome began to lift. Encouraged by her own revelations, she started contemplating what it truly meant to embrace her identity as both an artist and as a daughter willing to confront the past. What if she ventured further, took risks beyond the safety of the canvas? Before she could spiral into that daunting thought, a loud knock at the door shattered the moment. Both women turned abruptly, surprise etched across their features. With hesitation, Sarah walked toward the door, her path unexpectedly disrupted. Who could it be, and how would it affect the fragile threads of trust she was beginning to weave with Diane? As she opened the door, the new visitor's identity loomed large, hinting at yet another challenge that would test everything she had just begun to explore. Would Sarah be prepared to face whatever awaited her on the other side? As Sarah opened the door, the familiar but unexpected face of Lila, her old friend and art mentor, greeted her. Lila's vibrant presence had always lit up a room, and today was no different. The sunlight caught the golden strands of her hair as she stepped forward, confidence radiating from her. "Sarah!" Lila exclaimed, her voice a hearty mix of enthusiasm and concern. "I heard you had something incredible to share, and I needed to see it for myself." Yeah," Sarah stammered, caught between the exhilaration of her recent breakthrough and the dread of further exposing her vulnerabilities. "I was just showing Mom." Lila's eyes darted past Sarah, landing on Diane, who remained silently awestruck by the artwork. "It must be extraordinary if it left her speechless," she laughed, but the sound didn't entirely mask the seriousness of the moment. "Come on in," Sarah said, stepping aside, though an unease curled within her. Lila had always been the kind of mentor who pushed her to go further, to dig deeper, and Sarah wondered how far she was ready to go today. As Lila gravitated toward the canvas, Sarah's pulse quickened. She had experienced the bliss of creating, the thrill of revealing her emotions, but she now faced the pressure of two sets of eyes probing her artist's soul. Lila stepped closer, studying the nuances with the intensity of someone unafraid to uncover the truth hidden beneath each stroke. "This is beautiful, Sarah," Lila said, turning back with a serious expression. "It speaks volumes about your journey. But it feels unfinished. There's an electricity in here waiting to ignite." The weight of Lila's observation hung in the air, and despite its encouragement, Sarah felt a flicker of frustration ripple through her. "Unfinished," she echoed, the sting of vulnerability creeping back. "I thought I had finally declared it complete." "Art isn't a destination, it's a process," Lila explained, her voice soothing yet firm. You know that. This piece is raw and powerful, but I see potential in you to push those boundaries even further. What would it look like if you dared to embrace that rawness even more? Sarah crossed her arms, wrestling with Lila's suggestion. The mere idea of further exploration sent shivers down her spine. What would it mean to dig deeper than she just had? What treasures lay beneath the turbulent sea of emotions she had chosen to display? The questions spiraled in a whirlpool of doubt and desire. Lila continued, oblivious to Sarah's inner turmoil. Remember that art show I mentioned? Think about submitting this piece. It could sell, Sarah. Your truth is what the world needs, and it could be the catalyst for a bigger transformation not just for you, but for others. Hearing that a sale might be possible jolted Sarah but also infused her with a sense of urgency. What if her work did sell? Would that give her more permission to believe in her own talent? Or would the weight of expectation drown her confidence once again? You know, people see themselves through your art. Your story opens up a dialogue, and it'd be a shame to keep that hidden, Lila pressed, sensing Sarah's hesitation. Diane finally interjected. Sarah, this might be the opportunity you need to not only share your narrative but to begin weaving an entirely new chapter in your life. Lila's right, you have the chance to inspire others with your truth. Feeling the gentle nudge of encouragement from Diane, an ember of determination lit within Sarah. Could she really take the plunge again after facing so much doubt? I'm in, Sarah said, giving voice to the flicker of courage that had ignited. But only if I can ensure it's still my truth. I won't compromise my vision. Lila's smile widened, an acknowledgement of the potential blooming within Sarah. Just then, the weight of decisions loomed larger. Was she truly ready to present herself to the world again, to let them bear witness to her deepest fears and triumphs? The thought pushed against the cracks of her self-doubt. If she stepped onto this new path, there would be no going back. With her heart racing, she knew she would need to not only embrace the challenges ahead but also confront the expectations she had set for herself. Standing on the brink of possibility, Sarah felt the cauldron of emotions bubbling fiercely as the reality set in. She was about to take a monumental leap. As she turned back to face the canvas, steeling herself for the next chapter of her evolution, another loud knock disrupted her thoughts. Who else might be waiting at the door, and what surprise could they bring? Would they challenge her resolve or become unexpected allies in her journey? The knock echoed sharply in the tension-filled room, a jarring interruption that pulsed through Sarah like a jolt of electricity. She hesitated, caught between her contemplation of Lila's encouragement and the grounding presence of her mother, whose wide eyes reflected disbelief at the unexpected visit. Who is it? Sarah called out, steeling herself for whatever awaited on the other side of the door. It's me, Nolan, came the cheerful reply. Her neighbor, an aspiring photographer with an unyielding optimism, often brought unexpected insights into Sarah's life. Little did she know how timely his visit would prove. Just a moment, Sarah replied. She glanced back at Lila, questioning her own mental readiness to face yet another layer of her reality. The artist's life was public by nature, fraught with exposure and vulnerability. Would Nolan's encroachment on her intimate moment with Lila aid her journey, or simply complicate it further? When Sarah finally opened the door, Nolan burst in, camera in hand. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important, he said, beaming as though sunlight had poured into the room with him. His enthusiasm provided a contrast to the introspective heaviness that loomed in the space. Not at all, she replied, forcing a smile as she motioned him inside. He immediately shifted his focus to the artwork that captured their attention, eyes lighting up as they roamed over the canvas, filled with vibrant colors. Wow, Sarah! This is astounding. Your use of color and emotion is really powerful, he exclaimed, unknowingly amplifying the happy chaos in her mind. His praise stirred an ember of pride in her chest, yet it was quickly tempered by the heavy weight of Lila's assessment that loomed above. She had felt exposed in sharing her truth, vulnerable yet invigorated by the prospect of what lay ahead. Now, standing amidst two people who believed in her artistry, she grappled with trembling confidence. "Thank you, Nolan," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "But it's still a work in progress." "I don't believe it," he asserted firmly, taking a step closer, peering into the layers of emotion. "What you've created is raw and beautiful. It speaks not just to your experience but to a broader struggle that so many others face. You're capturing a dialogue that needs to happen." His words sank into her, this interplay between perception and reality bringing forth deeper possibilities. Sensing her uncertainties, Lila piped in, "Nolan's right, Sarah. You're on the verge of showing not just your narrative but perhaps igniting the stories of others too." Yet doubt still tangled with determination. Could she truly be a vessel for others' truths? What if perception shattered that illusion, leaving her with self-doubt? Suddenly, an idea sparked, one that she had toyed with before but now flared with significance. What if I created something specifically to tell that broader story? She said, her mind racing as she connected the dots between her fear and the desire to brave the unknown. Lila's face lit up, an encouraging smile and raised brows inspiring Sarah to visualize the canvas bursting with potential. "Tell that story, Sarah. It could be your next step. Think of how it could resonate with others." Taking a deep breath, she felt the tension shift, motes of courage sprouting within her doubts. In that moment, she knew that it was going to take introspection and courage to lead with her authenticity, an endeavor that required both artistic expression and self-discovery. "Okay," she said slowly, testing the waters of her resolution. "Let us generate ideas. Let us discuss what this new piece could look like." As they began brainstorming, Nolan's enthusiasm ignited a flood of ideas and concepts in Sarah's mind. They flowed freely, fueled by the energy in the room. Pillars of emotions intertwined with art, every brushstroke could be a message echoing the struggles and triumphs of so many. In this moment, she reveled in the interconnectedness of creativity and identity. As the conversation blossomed with renewed vigor, the anticipation of shaping this next piece cloaked her fears under a shimmering veil of optimism. Lila's belief in her, coupled with Nolan's relentless support, illuminated the path toward artistic freedom. Yet, beneath this buoyant surface lay a gnawing uncertainty. What if she unveiled too much, bearing her soul alongside that canvas? Would the truth empower her or chain her self-worth to the judgments of others? As they wrapped up their brainstorming session, Sarah caught Lila's eye, silently communicating her apprehension. Lila's reassuring nod fortified her resolve. But before she could voice her thoughts, another loud knock, even more authoritative this time, punctuated the moment, sending her heart racing anew. Was this yet another challenge to unravel, or could it be the key to understanding her journey further? The authoritative knock pulled Sarah from the vibrant web of ideas that had just begun to unfurl. She glanced between the expectant faces of Nolan and Lila, uncertainty pinballing in her chest. What fresh challenge awaited her on the other side of that door, with her aspirations hanging in a delicate balance? "Do you think I should?" she started, her voice slipping with hesitation. Lila stepped forward, a reassuring presence amidst the swirling chaos. "Just breathe, Sarah. Whatever is out there, you've got this. Remember, you're not alone." Nolan nodded, offering his camera to Lila as if it were a talisman. "I'll be right here, ready to capture whatever comes next." Fueled by their support, Sarah straightened her shoulders, the weight of her creative ambitions manifesting as a tangible shield. "Let us see who it is," she said, and willed herself to the door. With each step, her heart beat louder in her ears, amplifying her apprehension. Drawing in a deep breath, she opened the door, surprising herself with the firmness of her grip on the doorknob. Standing there was a figure cloaked in shadow, outlined against the afternoon light. Before she could react, the silhouette stepped forward into the room, her estranged father. His presence flooded her with a jolt of nostalgia and resentment. "Sarah," he began, his voice a mixture of trepidation and yearning. "I know this is unexpected." Memories of their last encounter rushed back, harsh words, broken trust. Navigating their past felt like stepping onto shifting sands, the ground perilously unstable. Here was another layer of vulnerability, a personal puzzle she had long buried beneath the pursuit of her art. "Why are you here now?" she managed, her voice tinged with skepticism. Each word felt like a careful placement, wary of setting off the landmines of their history. "I've come to apologize," he said, visibly shaken. "I've seen your work, Sarah. You've grown into someone remarkable, and I wish I'd been there to support you. I regret how I left things." His words hung in the air, a challenge mingling with an invitation. As much as she wanted to deny him the opportunity to reconnect, the desire for closure tugged at her, a complex weave of abandonment and longing. Lila stepped forward, her perceptive nature keenly aware of the charged atmosphere. "This is a moment, Sarah. You have the power to decide how to navigate it." Caught between the fragile world of familial ties and her burgeoning artistic journey, Sarah felt the weight of the decision pressing down. How could she blend her past with her present? Could she even begin to heal these fractures while simultaneously seeking authenticity within her craft? The surge of uncertainty urged her to act, to face this confrontation head-on without slipping back into her old patterns. She inhaled deeply. "I appreciate you reaching out to me. But I'm not the same person you once knew. I have to focus on my own journey now." His expression faltered, yet something softened in his eyes, perhaps a glimpse of understanding that bridged their distance, a silent acknowledgement of her growth. The confrontation spiraled inward, and she found her past colliding with her burgeoning identity, each pulse of fear cloaked in determination. "Maybe," he ventured cautiously, "we can start anew? Just be part of your life again?" An unexpected warmth flickered in her chest at the prospect, almost wanting to reach for the possibility. But then she remembered her newfound project, the narrative waiting to be told, the stories of struggle she wished to capture on canvas. In that pivotal moment, a hesitant decision began to form. "Let me think about it," she said, carefully wielding her choice like a brush across the canvas of her life. As her father nodded, understanding the delicate boundaries she was carving, Nolan's voice interrupted. "I think this is an incredible story in itself, Sarah. Embracing both your past and your present could fuel your work." The tension hung in the air, pregnant with potential as she faced both her father and her potential artistic breakthrough. This was a crossroads, where personal history met professional growth, and she felt the threads of her identity beginning to intertwine. But just as she began to process these newfound threads, her phone buzzed violently on the counter, a siren drawing her focus. With every instinct screaming for resolution, she glanced at the screen with dread. An unexpected message from an art gallery, one she had submitted 2 weeks ago. "What now?" she muttered under her breath, her heart racing with fresh anxiety. As she read the notification, a small thrill pierced through her. Doubt, could this opportunity be the catalyst that pushed her into the uncharted waters of self-affirmation and creative liberation? Her hands trembled as she prepared to navigate yet another challenge, each heartbeat a reminder that her journey was only just beginning. Sarah stood rooted to the spot, her phone still vibrating in her hand like a live wire. The gallery's message was brief but electrifying. They wanted to feature her work in a highly anticipated exhibition. Just like that, a chasm of doubt gave way to a heady rush of possibilities. The seeds of her ambitions had taken root, but now she was facing the storm of implications that came with this potential breakthrough. "What did it say?" Lila asked, her eyes bright, the air charged with unspoken hopes. "They want to showcase my art," Sarah replied, still trying to grasp the enormity of it all. It felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting again, but this time, it sparked excitement rather than fear. Nolan circled behind her, peering over her shoulder at the message. "This is massive, Sarah. You've poured your soul into your work. People need to see it." But with every surge of exhilaration came an equally paralyzing wave of trepidation. What would this exhibition mean for her personal journey? Could she bear the scrutiny of strangers, especially now as her past was rekindling with her father's sudden presence? The thought of vulnerability struck nerves that had only just begun to heal. "Do you think I'm ready?" she asked, the deep-seated apprehension creeping back in. Once again, her worthiness teetered on a precipice, echoing the moments when she had to confront her father. "Ready or not, you've already started," Lila responded firmly, her conviction reinvigorating Sarah's resolve. "It's a part of your evolution. Just remember, the art is about you. It's a reflection of your story. Own it." Sarah could feel the truth in Lila's words, yet another disconcerting thought gnawed at her. Was she prepared to reclaim this narrative when her past was so entwined with it? Could she ultimately reveal herself through her art without tangling her future with unresolved issues? "Maybe you could take inspiration from this moment with your father," Nolan suggested, his lens capturing the tension in the room. "Conflict often brings depth to art. Think about how it can shape your work. It might be the breakthrough you need, merging personal history with creative expression." His insight struck a chord. This could be the pushing force she needed, not just to produce art, but to communicate her full human experience. Yet potential excitement quickly resurfaced a different dilemma: how to navigate this personal territory without sacrificing the hard-fought boundaries she'd set after her father's return. "Then maybe I should sketch something," Sarah mused aloud, her mind racing. What if she painted her emotions tied to this crossroads? Could the process be a way to expose her vulnerabilities without compromising her boundaries? The notion of transforming her tumultuous feelings into visual stories felt both terrifying and liberating. She settled herself at the desk, the blank canvas staring back like a challenge. Paint tubes lay scattered nearby, each representing a different facet of her experience. But the right shade didn't leap to mind. Indecision haunted her fingertips. Instead of merely capturing her past, could she also envision a relationship moving forward? As the brush hovered, Sarah began layering instructions for herself: create from openness, but protect your heart. She sought to unravel the conflict through vibrant strokes and intricate textures, allowing her emotions to guide her hand. Each color whispered tales, each line turned into a question. But even as she poured her heart onto the canvas, her gaze flicked back to the doorway, where her father still lingered, waiting for his chance. Would she allow him to step into her process? Would she blend both worlds, risking further disappointment in hopes of a collaborative narrative? As she drew the first bold line, another message pinged on her phone, an alert from the gallery with a request for a personal statement. They wanted to know what the art represented. Questions flooded her mind: how to convey her growth without oversharing? How could she communicate her complex reality to an audience she had yet to meet? The clock ticked steadily, each second amplifying Sarah's fluttering apprehension. This was more than just about art, it was about identity, creativity, and forging a path toward who she was meant to be or who she hoped to become. With her choices weighing heavily, she took a deep breath, her brush lingering against the canvas. Would she have the courage to embrace both sides of her journey, personal and artistic, and let them intertwine in a way that felt authentic? The strangest sensation washed over her, like the electric thrill of a tightrope walk between daring leaps and delicate balances, a sensation that confirmed that this intersection of art and life was where she needed to be. Just as she struck the canvas again with renewed vigor, a knock on the door startled her from her thoughts, breaking the fragile tension. "Sarah?" Lila's voice drifted from the hallway, unaware of the storm brewing inside. "Hey, there's another opportunity on your phone, it looks big." A swell of hopefulness clashed with lingering doubts, tension coiling within her. What would this fresh opportunity demand of her? And could she balance all these layers, her past and present, her identity as an artist and a daughter? As she finished her stroke, she knew one thing: her unfolding journey held no singular path, but a multitude of narratives begging to be painted. The words on Sarah's phone ignited a new wave of anxiety. The fresh opportunity her friend mentioned wasn't just another exhibition or critique, it was the chance for her art to be featured in a boutique gallery that attracted affluent buyers. The allure of a $10,000 price tag loomed large. It seemed overwhelming, enticing, and, above all, demanding. Sarah's heart raced. What if she really could sell her art? What would that mean for her as a creative professional? As she stared at the screen, it felt less like an opportunity and more like a litmus test, pressing her to confront her self-worth. Selling her art for that amount could shift her from an aspiring artist to a legitimate professional, but the stakes were dizzying. With the deadline looming for the personal statement required by the gallery, urgency pulsed in her chest. She shifted her focus back to the canvas, her feelings swirling within her like a tempest. She could feel the weight of her identity pressing down on her: an artist, a daughter, and a single mother. They all collided within her at that moment, provoking fear and ambition in equal measure. Taking a deep breath, she placed her phone down, allowing the stillness of the room to settle around her. She needed clarity. She started jotting down thoughts in a notebook about what her art truly represented: the struggle, the resilience, and, most importantly, the transformative power of vulnerability. Each word felt like a brushstroke, a way of mapping out her complex emotional landscape. Would she dare to reveal herself completely? The sensitive nature of her narrative, her father's return, and the shadows of past wounds all threatened to unravel her. Yet, she had spent so long guarding her heart that this moment confronted her with a terrifying notion: could she let others in? As her thoughts flowed, she started sketching rough outlines on the canvas again. Every line she drew mirrored the introspective questions that haunted her: was her past something to celebrate or a burden to cast aside? Could her art reflect the beauty in her brokenness? The weight of her personal history felt potent yet freeing. Art could be her mechanism of exploration, not just a conduit for sale but a map to navigate her inner storms. Inspiration surged through her, igniting the brush on the canvas. She began layering colors with fervor, each hue signifying different parts of her journey. But then the specter of selling began to haunt her again. Would she be compromising her voice to meet market demands? How much authenticity was required when facing the world's gaze? It wasn't just the chance at money that gripped her, it was the desire for genuine connection through her work, the need for it to resonate with others while remaining true to herself. A soft knock brought her back to reality again. This time, it was her father. Sarah's instincts flared, she felt the familiar tension rise, but something shifted. She realized that this moment offered an opportunity. Could she confront him, not with the bitterness of their past, but with the impulse to weave him into the narrative of her art? "Dad?" she called, feeling an unfamiliar steadiness in her voice. "Can you come in?" As he stepped through the door, she could see uncertainty reflected on his face. Gone was the apprehension of a moment before, in its place was a flicker of resolve. This was not just about her father returning to her life, it was about redefining her relationship with him and herself. "Sarah," he began, eyes searching hers. "I know things have been complicated." She held his gaze, feeling the brush tingling in her hand. "Let's talk about it," she said, a quiet strength emerging within her. "And perhaps I can use it for my art." A new chapter began in her journey, not just as an artist, but as a daughter ready to reclaim and redefine the past while holding the possibility of a hopeful future. As the door closed behind him, Sarah grabbed her brush once more, feeling an electrifying mixture of apprehension and empowerment surge through her. She was ready to blend newfound courage with a complex emotional truth. But as she applied the next stroke to her canvas, another notification buzzed on her phone. This time, it was an invitation to exhibit in a prestigious venue out of state. The whirlwind of possibility and pressure clashed in her mind. What would she choose next? The moment of truth loomed, and she knew she had to make a decision that could alter the course of her burgeoning career. Standing before the canvas, Sarah felt the weight of the world pressing down on her. The invitation to exhibit her work at a prestigious venue out of state pulsed in her mind like a heartbeat, demanding her attention. Yet, conflicting emotions brewed within her: elation for the opportunity and fear of exposing her most vulnerable self. The room felt electric with anticipation as both her father and her inner drive for success coalesced, pushing her to step into a realm where art and authenticity merged into one. "What do I want?" she mused out loud, a question that seemed to bind her realities together. As she began to paint, layers of color spilled forth, each stroke a manifestation of the complexity of her emotions. The chaotic nature of her past intertwined seamlessly with the hopeful prospect of a future forged through transparency and self-acceptance. Each swath of color felt like a declaration of existence, an assertion that she was ready to embrace both her art and her identity. Simultaneously, she could feel her father watching her, a silent acknowledgement that the terrain of their relationship could start anew in the midst of these colorful expressions. The canvas transformed, swaying between reflections of past pains and hopeful aspirations. It was a dance of shadows and light, a squaring of accounts with herself and, perhaps, him as well. "I need to share my story," she proclaimed resolutely, stepping back to observe her evolving masterpiece. "This isn't just about an exhibition. This is about taking control." Diane entered the room quietly, sensing the intensity of the moment. "What are you thinking, Sarah?" she asked gently. "It's time for me to lay bare what needs to be expressed," Sarah replied, emboldened by the truth coursing through her veins. "Not just for the gallery, but for me. I want my art to resonate with others who feel lost or unseen. I can't put a price on that." Both women stared at the canvas in awe. What began as a personal battle was morphing into a universal message. Diane's eyes glimmered with pride, seeing Sarah come into her own not just as an artist, but as a person unafraid to confront both her past and future. As an artist, Sarah had always doubted herself, but now her years of struggle and resilience were integral to her burgeoning identity. The spark ignited within her had transformed into a roaring flame, burning away the remnants of insecurity. She was embracing the chaotic beauty of being multifaceted. An urge welled up within her to reach out to the gallery. "I'll take the opportunity, I have enough confidence now," she asserted, her voice a firm declaration that cascaded through the room. That night, fueled by fiery determination, Sarah composed her statement for the gallery exhibition. Every word was like paint on the canvas of her life, an expression of vulnerability that wove threads of struggle, growth, and triumph, all culminating in art that resonated with those seeking understanding in their own journeys. At the exhibition opening, the gallery buzzed with patrons excited to witness Sarah's work. Each piece glimmered with intent, every brushstroke a testament to her evolution. As she mingled with attendees, they approached her, eager to share their interpretations and reflections on her art's profound impact. In those moments, she could see how her courage to share her vulnerability had created connections not just for herself but for each person who stood before her work. When the time came for Sarah to share her artist's talk, she stood before a crowd filled with kindred spirits. "Art can reflect our deepest feelings," she began, her voice steady and resonant. "This piece is not only mine, it belongs to all of us who have felt invisible, who have struggled to be seen. Through this process, I found the courage to let go of fear and embrace my truth." As she spoke, she could feel the room shift, the energy electrifying as art intertwined souls. No longer did she stand alone in the shadow of self-doubt, she had emerged, fulfilling the promise of her potential. That night marked not just the sale of her artwork but her triumph over self-judgment and societal standards. In the aftermath, her work continued to gain recognition. She was featured in interviews and local publications, each opportunity solidifying her standing as a respected artist in the community. With newfound confidence and recognition came a sense of peace and affirmation that her voice could stir conversation and inspire others. The echoes of doubt faded with every triumph, solidifying her established position in the art world. Moreover, her relationship with her father began to heal, nurtured by the shared exchanges that emerged from Sarah's willingness to be vulnerable. Together, they navigated years of neglect and misunderstanding, committing to forge a new bond, one where creativity and honesty would intertwine, just as they had in her artwork. As Sarah stepped out of the darkness of anonymity, she emerged into the light of recognition. Through unyielding determination and self-discovery, she achieved more than artistic success. She conquered her fears, demonstrated resilience against external judgment, and embraced her identity as an artist. In each stroke, she proved that art could be both a mirror and a window illuminating lives and drawing people together even amidst a chaotic past. With her newfound recognition, Sarah stood tall, her heart brimming with a profound sense of fulfillment, ready for new beginnings and the stories that awaited to be painted. Now, it's your turn. If Sarah's inspiring transformation resonated with you and you want to see more powerful stories of personal growth, you need to subscribe now to our channel. Leave a like to support the algorithm and ensure these incredible stories reach those who need to hear them. And please comment below with your thoughts, reactions, and your theories about how vulnerability can lead to transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could use a boost of encouragement and empowerment. Let us grow this community together.